now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about that time Kitty Pryde used the N-word in a Marvel comic. Now, in Uncanny X-Men number 196, Volume 1, Kitty Pryde uses the N-word when she has a confrontation with a group of anti-mutant individuals. Now, in this issue of Uncanny X-Men, the professor has been reading people's minds, and he's trying to ferret out a group of people who are looking to plan a murder. Now, as the X-Men are on the search for this murderer on Columbia University, Kitty Pryde basically comes among these people in a study group. And as she comes among these people with the anti-mutant feelings, she's confronted by a black man, Phil, who basically calls her a mutie, and Kitty Pryde then retorts by calling him the N-word. And she says she does this because the word mutie is the same as the N-word, and that's where I gotta have a disagreement with the editorial at Marvel Comics and writer Chris Claremont, who basically wanted to try to make this statement that the word mutie is on the same level as the N-word as related to anti-mutant hate, but I really disagree with that whole talking point and the way it's executed here, because there is nothing like anti-black racism in this world. There is no level of hate like anti-black racism, and anti-mutant hatred would never be on the level of anti-black racism. And when it comes down to anti-black racism, again, this is basically the glue of white supremacy, but writer Chris Claremont really did not understand that. No, he was trying to make a statement about how being anti-mutant was the same as being racist, but the whole point wound up falling completely flat because he really didn't understand the history of America as related to black people, and really didn't understand the experiences of black people. And that's all due to the insular conditions of the comic book industry, which at the time was primarily filled with white males, and those white males basically wrote black people from the perspective that they had, which is very limited, because when it came down to the offices of Marvel Comics, there were not that many black people working in those offices in the 1980s. Maybe you had Ron Wilson, maybe you had Keith Pollard here or there as artists, and they probably were living in other parts of the country and mailed away their stuff, and maybe Dwayne McDuffie was an intern at the time, but there were no really strong foundational black American men working in the comic book industry to pull Chris Claremont aside and let him know that this whole talking about a mutant being the same as a black person was completely out of line. Because when it comes down to the suffering of black people, no one ever suffered the way black people suffered in this country as related to chattel slavery and the way we suffered during the time of Jim Crow. And the only way a person would understand what black people go through is if they were black themselves. So when I heard Kitty Pryde using this N-word, and I saw the context that it was used for, all I saw was Chris Claremont trying to go out here and again shock readers to get some sort of attention, to say a mutant was the same as a black person, but it just fell apart because no person in this world has gone through the experiences that foundational black Americans have gone through as related to our struggles in this world. When it comes down to black people have suffered again, as related to the global system of white supremacy, we have suffered due to the ongoing racism and discrimination going on in this country. And what Chris Claremont wanted to do with this issue of X-Men was try to use the black character to go out here and say, oh, this black person, they're so anti-mutant, they don't see how much they're hating a mutant the same way people hate black people. And it was a cycle of hatred, because that's what they were trying to say with Kitty Pryde. She was trying to, again, let him see where the cycle of hatred was. But clearly, when Chris Claremont wrote this, he really didn't understand black people, because when I looked at this black guy going out here and getting in the face of this white Jewish girl, it's not something I've ever seen a black person ever do. No, as someone who has lived around black people for the last 52 years of my life, and lived in black communities for almost 52 years of my life, along with other peoples like Latinos and other peoples, I know for a fact that when it comes down to black people are not the ones who are going to be the first to get up in the face of a white Jewish girl. No, a black person would never do that, because when it comes down to black people, we understand that there's consequences for our behavior, and no black person would have ever done what Phil ever did, because they understood there would be consequences for their actions, and they would have to also contend with the system of white supremacy if they ever looked to go out here and disrupt the racial hierarchy as related to white supremacist society. And that's why a black person wouldn't have been so rah-rah to go out here and get in the face of a white Jewish teenager like a Kitty Pryde. No, they wouldn't have been eager to get in the face of a white Jewish teenager like a Kitty Pryde, because they knew that if they did that, the white people in their group would basically make them experience some consequences, and make them experience some consequences for going out here and, again, getting in the face of that white person. Because even though Jim Crow was over, and even though we had ended segregation, there was still a racial hierarchy in this country as related to the way black people could socially interact. And a black person in this country understood that if they went out here and got in the face of a white Jewish person, there would be consequences for their actions, especially if they're in a group of white people the way Phil was. Now, this Phil character basically starts to devolve into a stereotype as this issue evolves, because they not only have the black character be the one who's aggressive in this issue, they also have the black character going out here and carrying a gun, and the first to draw it on a child as related to his so-called hatred. And that basically, ironically, goes out here after Kitty Pryde uses the N-word to try to say that racism towards mutants is the same as black people. It basically, ironically, shows Chris Claremont's lack of understanding of black people, because he basically takes black people down to the stereotype of the black brute, where he didn't understand that when it comes down to the media, they've always portrayed black men as aggressive, black men as violent, black men as out of control. And that's what he shows with the Phil character from his limited perspective of black people and the experiences that he has had with black people. He basically devolves the Phil character into a stereotype as related to talking about how people need to be tolerant of mutants, when in the context of Kitty Pryde, here you have a white Jewish female who basically, again, has all the privileges of society, and she goes out here and, again, uses this racial slur, but they want to go out here and scapegoat the black man as the one who is the most violent one in this comic, ironically going out here and showing their anti-black racism by presenting this black man in this context. And as they present this black man in this context, what they do is go out here and again reinforce old stereotypes about black people in their efforts to try to show how colorblind they were. That was the, again, great irony of this issue. As they look to go out here and make a statement as related to this attempt to kill a mutant, they show how little they understand black people and black culture, and that's again because many in the comic book industry never really wanted to go out here and hire black people like myself who have the backbone or the stones to go out here and tell creators about how things are in the black community. They really don't want to go out here and hire someone like me, or they wouldn't have had situations like in a Captain America comic of this era where Mark Grunwald made the egregious mistake of going out here and making Lamar Hoskins a Bucky when the term buck basically was a racist term to define black people. I mean, in this same era of the X-Men, where Kitty Pryde used the N-word, we had Lamar Hoskins be placed as Bucky and basically be a grown man in a child's costume. Again, an insult directed towards black people, and Mark Grunwald didn't understand what he was doing as related to how he was presenting black people, and thankfully, after getting some letters from black comic fans, eventually Mark Grunwald did go out here and he wound up redesigning Lamar Hoskins' costume and gave him a costume and to name Battlestar that was something that was more appropriate for a grown man. Now, Marvel itself didn't do Battlestar any favors because Battlestar basically fell into the background the same way the black Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, fell into the background. But what they wanted to do again was make the statement about tolerance with the Kitty Pryde character, but that statement ironically showed how intolerant many folks at Marvel still were as related to black people, and showed why it's important to have black people working at a company like Marvel. Again, the comic book industry really, again, has an issue as related to things because they don't have any black people working at these companies. They don't have any black people to go out here and let them know how things actually go as related to black-white relations, or how things go as related to the culture and experiences of black people. No, they don't have those types of people in their industry, and that's really something that's really hurt the business as related to the quality of the storytelling. Because as I look through this issue of X-Men 196, again, I really was not impressed with it at all. And I wasn't impressed with it at all because the whole statement that they were trying to make with this Black Phil character to say, oh, here's a black person who has anti-mutant feelings and he's participating in the same type of racism that a white supremacist would participate in, again, really shows how they really don't understand black-white relations. Again, when it comes down to black people, they basically become spellbound by white people, and again, they look to fit themselves into a black box in order to gain acceptance. I go in depth on this in my novel, Spellbound, about how a lot of black people, again, look to fit in with white people, but when they look to fit in, they look to fade into the background. They ain't looking to, again, go rah-rah like this, especially against another white person in the in the group of white people, because they know that, again, there would be not only consequences and repercussions, they would also be ostracized from the group because they would be seen as a clear and present threat to those white people. Those white people basically would have an issue with that black person. I mean, look at this whole panel. You got Phil choking out Kitty Pryde. Again, no black person would ever look to put hands on a white person. No, wouldn't think about putting their hands on a white person because they know that if they do that, again, there's going to be a chance of him going to jail and be put in life in prison, because those same white folks he would be with would possibly look to turn on him. They would look to go out here and turn on him because he's going up against white people at that case. And again, even though he has anti-mutant feelings, white supremacy is the most important thing for most white people, and they're going to go for their group before they go for any other group. So when I look at Phil's behavior, again, Chris really didn't know what he would understand black people, didn't understand black culture, again, didn't really understand anything about black people or the experiences of black people. No, didn't understand a single thing about black people. No, that's what happens in this comic book industry. A lot of people, they think they know black people. They think they know black culture. They think they know about our experiences, and they think they know about our lives, but they don't know black people at all. And what further exacerbates the situation is that you have people who are black, who are like these bootlicks and these sellouts, who are a part of the hobby, but don't have the backbone or the stones to, again, stand up for black people, stand up for black culture, stand up for black life. And that's how we wind up with books like this old issue of X-Men that really show black people not in a proper context. Now, if you want to see a comic story that features a black character from a black perspective, you can check out my comic John Haynes at Death's Door, which is available in paperback on Lulu.com right now. And you can also pick up a digital copy on Amazon's Kindle, and you can also pick up a copy at Google Play. And if you want to check out some action-packed fantasy fiction featuring black characters and black culture, you can check out the books of the SJS Direct Universe, like Spellbound, the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the Spinsterella books. You can find all those books on Amazon.com and see a richer picture of black life and the black experience from those stories. You can see a richer picture of black culture from the books in the SJS Direct Universe, and all those books are available in paperback on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target, and available in digital format at Draft Digital, Google Play, and other digital online booksellers. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, which was requested, to talk about comics in the comic book industry, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA, from the Black Boule, in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available on Lulu, John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at Lulu.com today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.